This is the Drake Golem, Star Citizen's newest, tiniest mining ship that's got a quantum drive, and it's coming into the next patch 4.1 alongside a new ground-based mining mech called the Atls Geo. And both of them bring something new to the table for the mining gameplay loop right in time, conveniently, for the new Banu mission giver who has you going and doing a bit of mining in exchange for some pretty amazing rewards, from some cool armor all the way up to a fully decked out Polaris capital ship. So let me give you a full preview of both to let you decide whether or not they're for you right after I tell you about the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. I know you guys have already heard about them from tons of other creators like me, but I really have used them for years before I even got sponsored, which is why I was really happy to work with them. I got sick of using shady free VPNs, which I knew I couldn't trust with my info, just so I could get access to websites that I needed to for work while I'm abroad in Taiwan. So now with Nord, I can do my job and even watch shows that aren't available here in Taiwan as a bonus, like Stargate SG-1, an absolute sci-fi classic. So if you're looking for a reliable VPN service and you want to support my channel along the way, you can head on over to nordvpn.com/morphologist to get a huge discount on the 2-year plan, plus get 4 additional months for free. That's nordvpn.com/morphologist, and if none of it really works for you, you can always get your money back with their 30-day money-back guarantee. The Drake Golem embodies what Drake stands for, a minimalist utilitarian design that's just made to get the job done. No frills, hardly any aesthetics applied to it whatsoever. It's not a pretty vessel by any means, but that's kind of its appeal for those who love Drake. And one of the benefits of that is just how tiny they were able to get the vessel. You can actually fit it inside of a C2, M2, or A2 Hercules. In fact, you could fit a couple of them in there, or maybe even more if you got a bit creative. And it even comfortably fits into the hangar bay of the Carrack if you ignore the fact that when you close the doors, things start to go a little crazy. Too bad they couldn't shave off a few centimeters with the landing gear to make it fit more comfortably. Going back to the design though, some of you who are more into Star Citizen may have noticed a few parts on this ship that look like they were borrowed from others, like this rotating VTOL engine, which looks like it could be straight off the Cutter, or this small arrow fin in a strange location that looks like it's straight off the Buccaneer. Granted, it is definitely at a different scale, but you see the relationship here. But probably the funniest bit that they borrowed from another ship is the cockpit, which is actually straight off of the Mule. They just chopped it off the front of the Mule ground vehicle and slapped it on this ship. Feels like a very Drake thing to do. And while it's not strictly speaking the definition of what a golem is, it kind of feels related to the name of it. It's something that came together from inanimate objects to create something living, something new. But they also added some new stuff, like these new Drake-specific containers for mining material that you collect, which I'm convinced are meant to be detachable. You can see how the engines are not part of these containers that hang below it. It almost looks like an Argo cargo, which has the same sort of style of design. This could make this little thing perfect for mining operations with a C2, where you could just keep dropping stuff off and picking up empty containers as you go. Speaking of those engines, I love these manifold pipes that glow red after you turn the engines on. It's such a cool little detail and touch to the design. Those 2 SCU containers, by the way, are actually 16 SCU boxes each, so if you're concerned about having too little space for mining, don't worry, it's got plenty, and the fact that it's detachable makes it even more versatile. And as you might expect from ships coming out of CIG, it does have an inventory you can access to deposit various items like weapons and an area for refueling. Although I didn't see where you might deposit weapons or detach the module, so it's probably still a work in progress. But I suspect it'll be pretty easy to work on given how exposed everything is. But hopping into the cockpit, you'll also now see that the interior is pretty much the same as what you might have seen on the Mule. It really is the same cockpit, although it has a few extra buttons and panels that the Mule doesn't have, given that this thing needs to fly and not just drive. Although I'm not so sure on the protection of it. I doubt that it's any different, so I wouldn't recommend getting into any scuffles with this thing, although it does have 2 size 1 badge repeaters if you need to tickle something, and that's probably all you'll be able to do. I think they're more meant as a psychological comfort as opposed to something that will actually help you in any situation. But visibility in this thing is still pretty good despite the fact that it was originally a ground vehicle cockpit, and in flight it's pretty impressive actually. It feels nimble in flight and gets you up to the top speed of 200 in SCM and 1000 in nav mode pretty quick, so if you need to get out of a situation and hopefully not get into a fight, you probably will be able to in this thing. You might also use its size to your advantage, fitting into caves or asteroids where you can to get away from foes. Its real party trick though is the mining head, which is integrated into the rooftop of the hull and folds down a track into the front of the ship. As far as I could tell though, the head isn't gimbaled, so if you wanted to stay perfectly still and just use the head to look around, it doesn't look to be possible. It seems they want you to turn the whole ship, otherwise it may have been a bug in this build of the ship, because it was in the test environment. It wasn't the fully released version, and that's why this is a preview and not a review, but I suspect that it's very close to the released form, given they're not even allowing us to test it for very much longer. I think the real appeal of this thing then is its small size and ability to drop those 16 STU containers on board another ship, and to be able to do it basically on your own. I imagine being able to release them from inside the cockpit and just attach a new set without really having to faff about with other people assisting you, making this potentially a really great little pocket miner for people who like to play more independently as opposed to in large groups, while it still has that capability of joining a larger mining operation and having other people help you take those containers off and replace them as you need them. I also strongly suspect that CIG is going to be introducing some minables in harder to reach areas, like larger caves that large ships can't fit into, and inside of asteroids in space, where this thing will be right at home. No word though yet on the price. I suspect it'll be right around $100, $110, $120, but remember, you can always wait till the next patch and just buy it in game. Where I suspect it's going to bridge the gap between smaller mining craft like the ROC ground miner and the prospector. And I think this is a perfect time now to shift on over to a new ground vehicle for mining, the new Atls Geo. The new Atls Geo is a variant of the existing Argo Cargo Atlas ground mech or exosuit, depending on how you want to look at it. I like calling it a mech because that's what I like. I'm calling it a mech. It looks nearly identical and functions basically the same. When you get into it, it's not exactly like other vehicles. You're basically just walking around like it's an extension of yourself, now being taller and with some more power. In this case, you've got a mining bit instead of a tractor beam. And it looks to have the same size mining beam head as the standard Rock, not the Rock DS, the one that I absolutely hate. Eat your heart out, Rock DS. But unlike the cargo variant, it does have its own scanner, allowing you to find the minables on your own without having to rely on a ship. But come on, the real reason why you guys are here isn't because of its new headlights or because of its scanning ability, it's because this thing has a jetpack on it, which is definitely necessary for it to be an effective mining vehicle to go out and do things with. Without this mobility addition, it would just be a pain in the butt over something like the Rock. And oh my gosh, does it really enhance mobility. You can get to crazy places with it, which might have you thinking, could this just be a battle mech? You could use the laser perhaps to kill things? Well, unfortunately, its laser doesn't do damage pretty much to anything. It's not effective at all. It does like 1% damage, and after that, it kind of drops off to doing almost nothing. Look, they thought of that, which just begs the question, when are we getting a combat variant of this CIG? When are we getting a railgun variant or something with a massive like Gatling gun on it? Please, I want my armored mech. Getting to its functionality though, it does have a lot of little nice design touches, like the ability to physically detach its box that it collects minables with, so you can replace it like you could with the Rock or Rock DS. That makes it very nice for mining operations if you've got multiple people. And it's got some spare room for an extra mining tool to place underneath. Well, you could put a pistol here if you want, and it can equip a large weapon on one side. The other side is reserved for mining attachments, those weird things they added many patches ago that no one hardly ever uses. Well, you can throw them on here, and I think that they will come more into play as they refine mining further this year, which seems to be the focus of 4.1. These ships really do seem to fill out some gaps that were existing in the mining tree to make it a little easier to get to the prospector and provide some more interesting alternatives to the sometimes boring Rock and Rock DS. And of course, this is also a way to get you to buy more ships. I mean, this thing is definitely going to give people an advantage in the new event that has you diving into a cave for a limited time before it closes up and kills you. The new Geo is going to give you a huge advantage, and if that Golem fits in the cave as well, you can see where they were probably going with this. But don't feel too pressured to buy it with real money. I suspect it'll be very affordable in-game come the next patch cycle, and so long as you play with friends, you're not going to miss out on the event. So I think that these are a great little addition, but what are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Hope to see you in the next one.